Welcome to next lecture. Now, in the previous lecture, we discussed what are the drawbacks of power electronics, that is majorly harmonics, and we have seen that how to define harmonics, and we learned how to find harmonics for some 3 standard waveforms. Now, let us take one more example. Here, output voltage of one power electronic circuit is shown, and it is given that RMS value of the fundamental voltage is 50 volts. What is the value of alpha? That is the question. Okay. Now, if you observe carefully in this waveform, we can notice that this area are balanced with these two areas. Okay, that means this positive area balanced with this negative area and negative area and the area of this portion is balanced with area of this portion. What do you mean by that? In one cycle, that is from 0 to 2 pi, the net area under the waveform is 0. Therefore, we can say A naught by 2 is equal to 0. In other words, DC component is a 0. Okay. Next. Now, as the question here is about the fundamental component, we need to find only A1 and B1, not necessarily to find all the coefficients. Okay, now let us see. A1 is equal to 1 by pi integration from 0 to alpha. Here the magnitude is given as 100 volt, but let me use a symbol VDC. At the end I will substitute VDC is equal to 100. So I can write here cos omega t d omega t. Here strictly speaking it should be cos of n omega t, but as we are calculating A1, that is n is equal to 1, this is cos omega t plus integration alpha to pi minus alpha, this is minus VDC cos omega t d omega t plus integration from pi minus alpha to pi VDC cos omega t d omega t. Okay. Strictly speaking, we should write this integration up to 2 pi, but I stopped at pi. Why? Because whatever the waveform pattern is there from 0 to pi, the same waveform pattern is there from pi to 2 pi also. Therefore, I can multiply with 2 here based on the symmetry. Okay. So, from the previous lectures, I will suggest you to simplify this integration. Okay. You will get A1 value is equal to 0 here. You will get A1 value is equal to 0. Now, let us find B1 in the similar way. Now B1 is equal to 1 by pi integration from 0 to alpha, that is VDC sin omega t, integration is with respect to omega t, plus alpha to pi minus alpha minus VDC sin omega t d omega t, plus integration from pi minus alpha to pi VDC sin omega t d omega t. Here also, just like earlier, as per symmetric property, you have to multiply with 2. Okay. Next step, you can take VDC outside. So 2 VDC by pi, 2 VDC by pi. Integration for sin omega t is cos omega t, and limits are from 0 to alpha. So here integration for sin omega t is a minus cos omega t. Okay, sorry. Next, this is minus of minus plus cos omega t. Limits from alpha to pi minus alpha. Okay. Next, here minus cos omega t. Limits from pi minus alpha to pi. Okay. Next, let us simplify this. 2 VDC by pi, upper limit minus cos alpha, lower limit minus of minus, that is plus cos 0 plus cos of pi minus alpha, lower limit minus cos alpha. Here minus cos pi is the upper limit, lower limit minus of minus plus cos of pi minus alpha. Okay. So here the question is about RMS value of the fundamental component. We are calculating only for alpha is equal to, n is equal to 1. Now 2 VDC by pi, cos 0 is 1, cos pi is minus 1, hence minus of minus plus 1, therefore it is a 2, minus, this is cos alpha, cos pi minus alpha is minus cos alpha, minus cos alpha, again cos pi minus alpha will give you minus cos alpha, hence we can have here 4 cos alpha. This is B1 coefficient. So if you see the previous calculations, we had A0 by 2 was 0, A1 is also 0. Okay. Therefore, the fundamental component can be expressed like this. Suppose if I take 2 common here, we will have 4 VDC by pi into 1 minus 2 cos alpha. This is peak value of fundamental component multiplied with sin omega t. Okay. For example, if I compare this with Vm sin omega t, what is RMS value for this expression? Let me use capital letter for RMS value, that is Vm divided by root 2. Okay. Therefore, what is Vm here? 4 by pi into root 2, this one 4 by pi, denominator root 2. VDC, let me substitute the value 100 volt multiplied with 1 minus 2 cos alpha. This value is given as 50 in the data. Okay. So, if you calculate this particular number, you will get 0.9. Okay. Therefore, 1 minus 2 cos alpha is equal to 50 by 90, 5 by 9. So from this you can get alpha value is equal to 77.16 degree. This is the answer. Okay. This question asked in GATE 2014. Now let us take another example. Here output voltage of one power electronic circuit is shown in the figure. Objective is to find Fourier series expression for this. Okay, just for your information, this is the output voltage of half wave rectifier circuit that we will study later. So how can we define the given function first? V naught is equal to Vm sin omega t. This is the definition of the given function from 0 to pi, and pi to 2 pi, this function is 0. Pi to 2 pi, that function is 0. So what we need to do? We need to calculate a naught by 2 coefficient first, right? That means 1 by 2 pi integral from 0 to pi Vm sin omega t d omega t. So here if I take Vm outside, so Vm by 2 pi, so strictly speaking you need to write integration from 0 to 2 pi, but pi to 2 pi it is 0, hence I stopped at pi itself. Okay, so what is integration for sin omega t? That is minus cos omega t, limits from 0 to pi. So this value is Vm by 2 pi, upper limit is minus cos pi, lower limit is minus of minus plus cos 0. This is 1, this is 1, that is 2. So 2 and 2 will get cancelled out. Hence a naught by 2 we will get Vm by pi. A naught by 2 we will get Vm by pi. Okay. Next, let us find An coefficients. An calculation. An is equal to 1 by pi integration from 0 to pi the given function Vm sin omega t multiplied with cos of n omega t d omega t. Okay. So let us simplify this. Vm by pi integration from 0 to pi. Now this expression is similar to 2 sin A cos B. Okay, but as the 2 is not there, what we can do? Let us multiply and divide with 2. Therefore, what is the expression here? 2 sin A cos B. How can you write down 2 sin A cos B? That is sin of A plus B plus sin of A minus B. Therefore, we will get it like this: sin of 1 plus n into omega t plus sine of 1 minus n omega t. That is integration with respect to omega t. Okay. Further simplification. Vm by 2 pi integration for sine minus cos of 1 plus n divided by 1 plus n limits from 0 to pi. Okay. And second term is minus cos of 1 minus n into omega t. Need to put here omega t. Okay. Denominator 1 minus n limits 0 to pi. Now let us substitute the limits here. So what we will get? Vm by 2 pi, upper limit is minus cos of 1 plus n into pi, denominator 1 plus n. Lower limit minus of minus plus cos 0 divided by 1 plus n. Second term minus cos of 1 minus n into pi, denominator 1 minus n. Lower limit minus of minus plus cos 0 divided by 1 minus n. Now for example, if we consider n is odd number, okay, n is a odd number. Suppose if n is odd number, 1 plus n and 1 minus n will be even numbers, isn't it? Therefore, if n is odd number, what is the value of the first term? Cos even pi, that is 1. So minus 1 by 1 plus n plus 1 by 1 plus n. These two terms will get cancelled out. If n is odd number, this term is cos even pi, that is 1. So minus 1 by 1 minus n plus 1 by 1 minus n. So all together we will get 0. So an is equal to 0 for odd value of n. Now let us check for even value of n. What is that? Suppose if n is even number, 1 plus n and 1 minus n will be odd numbers. Therefore, the first term is cos odd pi is minus 1, minus of minus plus 1. So plus 1 by 1 plus n plus 1 by 1 plus n plus 1 by 1 minus n plus 1 by 1 minus n. Therefore, if you simplify that, the value inside the bracket is 4 upon 1 minus n square. As the denominator there is 1 2 here, you will get 2 Vm divided by pi into 1 minus n square. Okay, this is for even value of n. This is for even value of n. Okay, now in this particular conclusion, we should be careful for one specific case. What is that? See, earlier I told for odd values of n, ans are zeros. For example, if I substitute n is equal to 1, because 1 is odd number. So if I substitute n is equal to 1, these two terms denominator will have 0. These two terms denominator will have zeros. That means something by 0, indeterminate form. So whenever in the Fourier series analysis, if you get indeterminate forms, then you have to calculate that particular an or bn values by substituting that so and so value. Here we have that difficulty for n is equal to 1. What you have to do? You should calculate a1 value separately. Then what is that? 1 by pi integral 0 to pi Vm sin omega t is the original function multiplied with cos omega t d omega. Okay. So how to simplify this? Vm divided by 2 pi integration from 0 to pi sin 2 omega t d omega t. Why? Sin 2a is equal to 2 sin a cos a. As 2 is not there, I just wrote here denominator. So if you evaluate this integration, you will get 0. What do you mean by that? A1 value we just calculated and cross verified whether it is 0 or not. As we got it 0, so there is no contradiction in this particular conclusion. In the similar lines, let us find Bn coefficients also. Bn can be expressed as 1 by pi integration from 0 to pi Vm sin omega t multiplied with sin of n omega t d omega t. Okay. So how to simplify this one? Vm divided by 2 pi. So that what is the expression here? 2 sin a sin b. How to simplify that? Cos of, let me write here, cos of 1 minus n into omega t minus cos of 1 plus n into omega t d omega t. Now Vm divided by 2 pi, what is the integration for cos? Sin of 1 minus n into omega t divided by 1 minus n minus sin of 1 plus n into omega t divided by 1 plus n. Limits from 0 to pi. Limits from 0 to pi. So again, no need to expand this equation here. Why? Whether you substitute even pi or odd pi, sin any pi will be 0. Sin 0 will also be 0. Therefore, we can write here Bn is equal to 0 for any value of n. Here also we have the same difficulty. Suppose if I substitute n is equal to 1 here, denominator is 0, something by 0, indeterminate form. So what we have to do here, B1 value we should calculate separately. Okay, then what we will get? 1 by pi integration from 0 to pi Vm sin square omega t d omega t. Okay, Vm sin square omega t d omega t. What is the reason for this square? Sin omega t, one more sin omega t. Okay, how to simplify this integration? Vm by pi integration from 0 to pi sin square omega t can be expressed as 1 minus cos 2 omega t divided by 2 d omega t. Okay. So here this simplification is Vm by 2 integration for 1 is omega t, for cos 2 omega t sin 2 omega t divided by 2, limits from 0 to pi. Okay. So 0 to pi I'm sorry, here this is Vm by 2 pi. So 0 to pi, that means sin 2 pi and sin 0 both will be 0. We can cancel it. Here upper limit is pi, that pi and pi will get cancelled. Therefore, what is the conclusion here? B1 is equal to Vm by 2. Okay, B1 is equal to Vm by 2. So our earlier conclusion, we need to correct this conclusion. Why? Because here we told that Bn is equal to 0 for any n, but that is not true. Bn is equal to Vm by 2 if n is equal to 1. Okay, so you have to address that. So I will modify this statement. Bn is equal to 0 for any value of n, but n is not equal to 1. If n is equal to 1, this value is Vm by 2. If n is equal to 1, this value is Vm by 2. Okay. So these are the conclusions for A0 by 2, An and Bns. Now what is our objective? Our objective is to find Fourier series expression for the given function. Let me write down that function here. V0 is equal to A0 by 2 plus sigma n is equal to 1 to infinity An cos of n omega t plus Bn sin of n omega t. An cos of n omega t plus Bn sin of n omega t. So here A0 by 2 value, what we calculated? Vm by pi. A0 by value was calculated as Vm by pi plus now if you observe carefully here, Bn's are present only for n is equal to 1. So let us write down that and finish it off. That is Vm by 2 sin omega t when n is equal to 1 here. Next, so An's are present for only for even values of n, right? Suppose if you take n is equal to 2 and substitute in the An equation 2Vm by pi into 1 minus 4, that is 3. Therefore, I can write down like this, minus 2Vm by 3 pi cos 2 omega t. Okay. Next, if you substitute n is equal to 4, you can write down in continuation. Then you will get 2Vm by 15 pi cos 4 omega t minus 2Vm by 35 pi cos 6 omega t and so on. Okay. So this is the final conclusion of Fourier series expression for the given waveform. Now let us extend our previous example a little more. Now here consider this waveform. Here also objective is to find the Fourier series expression for this particular waveform. Now observe carefully here, there is one important concept. We can treat this particular waveform into two portions. What is that? In the first case, you can take just same as previous one. It will be like this. Okay. Let us call this particular waveform as VA and this particular waveform I can say VB. Okay. So how to write V naught? V naught is equal to VA plus VB. Okay. So what is the expression for VA? That is same as our previous example. Vm by pi plus Vm by 2 sin omega t minus 2 Vm by 3 pi cos 2 omega t and so on. Right? Now that is VA. Observe carefully here. What is VB? VB waveform is just nothing but VA waveform is right shifted by pi. So what we can write here, VB is the same as VA is right shifted by pi. VA is right shifted by pi. Okay. Therefore, what you have to do? In VA expression, each omega t term should be replaced with omega t minus pi. No need to worry here. The shifting theorem you will study in more detail in signals and system subject. This is one application. Okay. So if you shift this, there is no change in Vm by pi term, and sin omega t term will become minus sin omega t. There will not be any change in the cosine terms. So by doing that right shifting, okay, and if you add these terms, we will get Fourier series expression for this particular waveform as 2 Vm by pi sin omega t minus sin omega t, both will cancel out. Next term is minus 4 Vm by 3 pi cos 2 omega t minus 4 Vm by 15 pi cos 4 omega t and so on. Okay. This is the Fourier series expression for this particular waveform. Right. Now in these two examples, what is important conclusion? These two waveforms are output voltages of some rectifier circuits. Anyhow, in the rectifiers we will study these things. At the time I will use these Fourier series conclusions. Okay. These waveforms contains even harmonics. Very, very important conclusion. And for this GATE exam syllabus, it is clearly mentioned that harmonics in detail. Okay. So harmonics have good amount of weightage. So output voltage of these type of waveforms contains even harmonics. So if I consolidate all of these things, square, delayed square and quasi square waveforms contains odd harmonics. Half wave and full wave rectified output waveforms contains even harmonics. Right? This is about harmonics discussion, and with this we can close this harmonics discussion. Now let us move to the next topic. If I write PEC, That word stands for power electronic circuits. You take any power electronic circuits, generally more or less it will have three basic components. One is a switch. Power electronic circuit consists of a switch. Okay. The purpose of this switch is to control the power flow. The purpose of the switch is to control the power flow. Okay. So, due to the switching operation, we will come across the variations in voltages and currents. Those variations will appear as ripple components. Okay, it is called ripples, right? In order to reduce that ripple components or to smoothen out the power flow, the basic components are inductor and capacitor, energy storage elements. Okay, so the basic purpose of L and C in power electronic circuits is to smoothen the power flow. So here, before directly jumping into power electronic converter analysis, it is good to understand the basic properties of these components. So by keeping that point in mind, first let us start discussing the basic properties of switch in ideal condition as well as practical conditions. Okay. Now let us discuss the switch properties under ideal conditions. Okay. So basically a switch is bistable circuit element. A switch is bistable circuit element. What do you mean by bistable? It will have two stable states. One is on and other is off state. So in the on state, the switch can be represented like this. Follow the basic concepts carefully. Off state, the switch can be represented like this. So draw the switch symbol always in the entire course strictly like this. What is that? This is a simple representation of a single pole, single throw switch. Single pole and single throw switch. On state means pole is in contact with the throw. On state means pole is in contact with the throw. Off state means pole and throw are separated each other. Pole and throw are separated each other. Okay. Now first let us try to understand what is the meaning of that symbols. Now look into this particular symbol closely. When a switch is on, pole and throw are in contact each other. The red color arrow shows these two contacts are closed or touch each other. Under that condition, the blue color arrow indicates the direction of current flowing. Okay. Whether you are writing in a descriptive manner or not, if you are showing this symbol in this way, the user can understand. Red color arrow is telling that switch is closed condition. Blue color arrow indicates that direction of current flow. Okay. Now, in this particular case, red color arrow is showing that pole and throw are not in contact each other. They are separated. Okay. That is what switch symbol, switch notation, right? Now let us look into on state property of the switch. On state, okay. So in order to understand the on state property of the switch, let us take one example. What is that? Consider there is one source of voltage magnitude V and there is a switch here, and also consider a load of a resistance R, right? And here this is a pole terminal and this is a throw terminal. On state means this pole and throw are in contact each other, right? So whenever pole and throw are connected each other, you can say that P and T both are at the same potentials. Therefore, what is the potential difference between those two terminals? You can represent with the VSW, okay, voltage across the switch. As P and T both are at the same potentials, voltage across the two terminals will be 0. Potential difference is 0. And what is the current flowing through the switch? That is V by R, simple Ohm's law, right? V by R. So what we can say that V is depending on the source, R is depending on load. Ideally speaking, that magnitude is any number. Ideal switch can carry any amount of current. So what we can say here, under ideal conditions, when the switch is on, you can write voltage across the switch is equal to 0, okay. Voltage across the switch is equal to 0, and any amount of current the switch can carry under ideal conditions. Any amount of current, we can write it like this: minus infinity to plus infinity, okay. But for this particular circuit example, that is V by R, right? Infinity you cannot show it practically, so you can write it ideal statement like this. Another important conclusion here: as voltage is 0, current is any number. If you take the product, P on is equal to V on multiplied with I on. As V on is equal to 0, no matter whatever the current is, this product will be 0, right? So this product is, in other words, the power loss in the on condition, we can call it as conduction loss. We can call it as conduction loss. Okay. So ideal switch conduction loss is equal to 0. What is the main reason for that conduction loss is to be 0? That is due to 0 voltage drop across this switch during its on state. Okay. In the similar line, let us look into off state property. Let us look into off state property. Again, I can take same circuit as an example. The source voltage of magnitude V, and there is a switch in between, and here a resistance of R, a load resistance of R, okay, and switch terminals P and T. So off state is nothing but the P and T terminals are separated each other. That is shown by red color arrow. So under this condition, you can say here there is no path for current to 0. Okay. Therefore, what we can say, the current flowing through this switch, okay, current flowing through the switch is equal to 0. But what will happen here? This entire source voltage will appear across the switch, right? Under ideal condition, the switch can block any amount of voltage. Under ideal condition, the switch can block any amount of voltage. Okay. Now, one important point. For example, some conditions are given to you. How to identify whether the given switch is in the on state or off state? Okay. Observe carefully. So, whatever the amount of current is carrying, for example, in the first case, there are different conditions. There is one switch is carrying 1 ampere with a 0 voltage drop, 5 ampere with 0 voltage drop, 10 ampere with 0 voltage drop. So, in these three conditions, what is the common? 0 voltage drop. Therefore, what you can say, if at all you notice that voltage across the switch is a 0, you can declare that is a switch is in the on condition. So we can say this is primary property. This is a primary property for the switch to be considered as a on state. For example, I will give you another scenario. One switch is blocking 100 volt, carrying 0 current. Another switch is blocking 200 volt, carrying 0 current. Third switch is blocking 500 volt, carrying 0 current. What is common in these things? 0 current. So whenever you notice 0 current in the switch, okay, we need not to worry about the voltage. Therefore, turn off switch property primarily decided by looking into 0 current. Okay. So thumb rule is whether when the switch is in the on state or off state, on what basis we will conclude? If voltage across the switch is 0, you can conclude it as a on state switch. If current flowing through the switch is 0, you can conclude it as a off state switch. When 0 voltage is appearing, how much current it flows through the switch depends on external circuit. When 0 current is flowing through the switch, how much voltage it can block? It depends on external circuit. Okay, basics are very, very important. Follow carefully. Now in this condition, for example, if you take the product P of is equal to V of into I of. Because of I of is 0, no matter whatever the voltage it is, then it is a 0, right? So this particular power loss is known as blocking loss. This particular power loss is known as blocking loss. What is the reason for this blocking loss is to be 0? That is because of 0 current flowing through the switch. Now let us look into third property of the switch. In order to understand this, previous conclusions I just put it in the waveform. Follow carefully. So this will explain about the transition. We'll see what do you mean by transition. Now from this waveform, can you tell me the first interval, what state it represents? Okay, on what basis we can say? In the first interval, I can see here voltage across the switch is 0. Current flowing through the switch is some finite value. Therefore, I can say first state is a on state, isn't it? Second state, current flowing through the switch is equal to 0 and the voltage across the switch is some value, some finite value. So if the current is 0, what we told, that is off state, okay, that is a off state. Now what we need to understand from this particular waveform, how much time the switch is taking to change its state, how much time the switch is taking to change its state. I can say 0 time, 0 time for on to off transition. Similarly, 0 time for off to on transition. So what we can say here, ideal switch can change its state instantaneously, okay. Mathematically it can be represented like this: time taken for on to off transition is equal to 0 okay. Time taken for off to on transition is equal to 0. Some authors used to say this is a crossover time also, okay. It's just a terminology. Transition is a very popular word, but some people will also use crossover time for these switching actions, okay. So from this we can say that switching times associated with ideal switch will be 0. In other words, reciprocal of switching time, you can say switching frequency is equal to infinity is equal to infinity, okay. Now before this dotted line, can you tell me what is the power loss? That is 0, because 0 voltage. After this transition, after this dotted line, again the power loss is 0, that is due to 0 current. So transition, there is no time involved. For transition times, again 0 time. Therefore what you can say here, ideal switch, there is no power loss involved okay. Such a power loss is called switching power loss. Remember carefully, when power electronic semiconductor device is operating as a switch, majorly it involves 3 losses. One is conduction loss, another is blocking loss, third one is transition loss. Transition loss is also called switching power loss. Under ideal conditions, these 3 loss components are 0, okay. Under ideal conditions, these 3 loss components are 0 right. Suppose if you take electrical machines, those are also power conversion equipments, but in the electrical machines there are rotational losses also involved. But power semiconductor devices, there are no rotational losses. The losses involved are conduction loss, blocking loss and switching loss. These losses ideally 0, but practically these are not 0. They are finite values, but these finite values are much less than conventional rotational electrical machines. That is the main reason for power electronic circuits to have higher conversion efficiencies, okay, what we discussed in the introduction lecture. Now the fourth property is external circuit requirement. External circuit requirement, okay. Ideally speaking, ideal switch doesn't require external energy to change its state from off state to on state, and it doesn't require external energy to maintain that state. Okay, mathematically can be expressed like this. I am reading very slowly, better you note down all the points. External energy required to change the state from on state to off state is equal to 0, and to maintain that off state external energy required is a 0. Okay, what do you mean by that statements? I will explain in more detail a little later. Okay, so this is about the fourth property. Fifth important property is thermal constraints. Okay, thermal constraint. That means, now if you see the previous four properties, what we can say that when a switch is in the on state, conduction loss is 0. When the switch is in the off state, blocking loss is 0. During the transition, switching loss is 0. Therefore, what is the heat delivered from switch operation under ideal conditions? As the loss components are 0, there will not be any heat produced from the switch operation. When there is no heat produced from the switch operation, we can say that thermal point of view, the switch operation is a stable under all operating conditions. Thermally stable under all operating conditions. Okay, so these are 5 properties of the switch. Now we can consolidate all of these 5 properties in one simple diagram. Let us see that. Now from the first property, what we can say, when the switch is in the on state, it has 0 voltage drop across it. Suppose if you plot that statement on a IV plane, what we will get? Let us see. Voltage across the switch is 0. The switch can carry any amount of current. That means it is either plus infinity, on state operating point will be located along the current axis in the towards plus infinity. Similarly, a negative infinity also. So the point to understand here, on state operating point will be located along with current axis because voltage drop across the switch will be 0. Off state operating point, how to identify that? When the switch is in the off state, current is 0. Therefore, off state operating point will be located along with voltage axis, either towards plus infinity or towards minus infinity. Okay, so under ideal conditions, the switch can be operated anywhere in this entire IV plane. Okay, there will not be any limitations. So there are no boundaries, we can say. Okay, so these are all ideal switch properties, but strictly speaking, none of these properties will be possible, okay, in reality. Why? Because ideal systems will never exist. What will be the deviations from ideal to practical scenario? For example, everyone, whoever is watching this video, you just look into the switchboard is there in your room. Okay, so for example, the switch is at present off state, let us say. How to change that switch from off state to on state? Whether it will change automatically on its own? No. You need to go to switchboard and you need to press that switch. That means a practical switch requires some external help. In other words, some external energy to change its state from off state to on state. Similarly, on state to off state also it requires some external energy. Now just think two scenarios. There are two switches. One switch is able to turn on or turn off simply by pressing the switch like this. One switch requires one hammer and turn it on like this. In these two cases, which one is more preferable? Obviously, the first one is preferable. So, what we can say, ideally there is no need of external energy, but that is not possible. Practically, there is a need of some external energy, but the switch is preferable or good switch or nearer to having ideal properties if it requires a less amount of energy to change its state from on state to off state and off state to on state. Now, I will tell you one more example. So, generally, whatever the switches we will use for our lamps, fans, okay, SPST switches, and take one switch of that type, and another switch is of a calling bell switch or push button switch. If you compare these two switches, what you can understand, the normal switch on the switchboard, okay, whatever we are using for the fans and all, that switch requires external energy only to change the state. What do you mean by that? Just you press the switch and do your work. The switch will remain in that on state. That means that switch requires external energy only to change the state. But that switch doesn't require external energy to maintain that state. Okay. Whereas in calling bell switch, it requires external energy not only to change the state, but it requires external energy to maintain that state. Okay. Now, power semiconductor devices will also have the similar properties. What devices will have these properties? Slowly we'll understand. Okay. So, what is our next discussion? What are the deviations of switch properties in reality from ideal to practical conditions? Okay. Now, let us look into that. Now, follow carefully. I will modify these statements point by point. Okay, just you need to rewrite. Please note down again. So, earlier in the ideal switch properties, we told that voltage across the switch is equal to 0. But strictly speaking, 0 voltage drop is not possible. Okay, it will have a small voltage drop. That is, for power semiconductor devices, it will be in the order of 1 or 2 volt. Such a voltage drop is known as, please don't modify in your earlier discussion, you need to rewrite. Suppose if you modify earlier one, ideal will be modified to practical switch properties, then ideal properties will be missed. Okay. So here, this particular voltage drop is called forward voltage drop or forward conduction drop. Okay. This value is roughly in the order of 1 volt to 2 volt. Okay. Next, ideal switch, we told that it can carry infinite amount of current, but a given physical device, it is impossible to carry infinite current. It can carry finite amount of current. How much current it can carry, that will be specified by the manufacturer. Okay. Therefore, what is the modification from ideal condition to real condition? A switch can carry finite amount of current during its on state, and it will have a small voltage drop. That small voltage drop is known as forward conduction drop. Okay. Now, what could be the modification? By this time you should understand. Earlier, when V on is equal to 0, we wrote this product was 0, ideally. But due to this V on, there is some amount of power loss. So, when the switch is in the on state, that will be some conduction loss. Okay. So, any electrical application, if it is under working condition, after some time if you touch that, that means not in the live condition. If you touch the body of that electrical circuit, it will be little bit heated up. That is due to losses. Okay. Loss will be delivered out as a heat. Next. So, in the on state property, what is the main discussion? Conduction loss is finite value, right? That is due to on state voltage drop across the switch. Now, coming to off state. Coming to off state. Earlier we told that zero current flowing through the switch, but practically speaking, there is some amount of current will flow through the switch during off state. Okay, that current is called leakage current. That current is called leakage current. Now you may have a question here. When a switch is in the off state, there is no path, then how it will flow? So if you consider in place of switch power semiconductor device under reverse bias condition, there is a chance of some leakage current. Okay. So generally that current in power electronic circuits will be neglected, right? And earlier we told that infinite amount of voltage during off state. Infinite is not possible. Therefore, it will be finite voltage drop, right? The switch can block finite amount of voltage during its off state. So, now you tell me what will be the modification here? Because of finite amount of current and finite amount of voltage drop, this product will also finite value. That means, so what is the main contributing factor for blocking losses? That is leakage current. Okay, leakage current. So at this stage, one point we should have in mind: for losses to be as low as possible, voltage drop during on state should be as low as possible. Leakage current during off state should be as low as possible. Okay, but we cannot make them to be zero. They will have some value of these losses. So manufacturers should take care during their design process to have less conduction drop and less leakage current. Now in the transition, earlier we told that time taken for on to off transition was 0, ideal property. But practically it is not 0 exactly. Similarly, off to on transition, it is not exactly equal to 0. Then in the transition interval, what will happen clearly we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay. So in this lecture, what we can say, transition of a real switch is not instantaneous. It will take finite amount of time. Therefore, there is some limitation on switching times, switching frequency and switching losses. These values are finite values. Okay, so the modification from ideal to real condition is the transition times are non-zero values. Due to that, the switch operation will contribute some amount of switching power loss. Okay, now coming to external circuit requirement, as I gave the example, the physical switches. So what we can say, power semiconductor devices when they are operating as a switches they need some help in the form of energy, okay, in order to change its state from on state to off state and off state to on state. Okay, now in our earlier physical switch example we just go through switchboard and just change that switch position by simply pressing the button. Coming to our uh, power semiconductor devices when they are operating as a switch, okay, try to understand the concept carefully. Here when a device is operating as a switch, there is a need of some external energy to change that state from off state to on state and maintain that state. Similarly here also these are not equal to 0. Now the question is who will supply that external energy for the switch to change that state. I am repeating, for a real switch to operate, it requires external energy to change the state, okay, or to maintain that state. Now, who will provide that external energy in order to turn on the switch? That circuit, okay, some external mechanism is required. That external mechanism to provide energy to turn on the switch is called triggering circuit or firing circuit or base drive circuit or gate drive circuit. These are the different terminologies. Okay, suppose if you are using a device thyristor, the terminology is triggering circuit or firing circuit, or you can also call it as a gate drive circuit. MOSFET, gate drive circuit. BJT, base drive circuit. Okay, IGBT, gate drive circuit. These are the terminologies. Now after turning on, the devices are in the conduction state, right? We want to turn off them, then there is an external mechanism in order to turn it off. There is an external mechanism in order to turn it off. Okay, that external mechanism is called commutation circuit. That external mechanism is called commutation circuit. We will discuss about all of these circuits in detail once the converter analysis is started. Now we are just introducing the terminology one by one. Okay, till now what are the different terms we have introduced? Switch, on state, off state, conduction loss, blocking loss, switching loss, gate drive circuit, commutation circuit. Now next, fifth property is thermal constraints. So what is the difference from ideal to real condition we discussed till now? Ideally loss component was 0, hence there was no heat delivered out. But now when a real switch is in operation, there is a finite amount of conduction loss, finite amount of blocking loss, finite amount of switching losses. All of these losses will deliver out as heat. All of these losses will deliver out as a heat. So this heat, due to this heat, we should not operate without boundaries. Okay, that means we can say that thermally stable. Okay, thermal constraints means stable under certain operating conditions only. Okay, the real switch is thermally stable under certain operating conditions only. Okay, so whenever the switch is getting some amount of losses, then what we can say that heat will be continuously delivered out. So there is a need to cool the system. Okay, in other words, there is a need to control that heat, right? So proper heat management, proper temperature management is required. That will be provided with the help of heat sink. That will be provided with the help of heat sink, or sometimes with forced cooling circuits or forced cooling techniques. Okay, so these are all different accessories associated with switch operation, right? Now, by looking into these points, let us put it in the form of IV plane. What are the limitations? Now here, earlier we told that on state there is no limit. Operating point will be located along with the current axis, either towards plus infinite or towards minus infinite. But from this present discussion, there is a limit on this current and voltages. Therefore, I can draw that limit on the current like this. That limit on the current like this. Okay. So, let us write down this as current limit. We can write this as a current limit. So you cannot operate infinite current. You can operate the switch with the finite current. Next, in the similar way, there is a limit on voltage also. There is limit on voltage also, either this side or that side. It all depends on the device. A given device not necessarily to have all of these conditions, only some or different portions it will have. So we can write here, this is voltage limit. This is a voltage limit. That is voltage limit. Now, if you find area under this portion, this is the rated voltage multiplied with rated current. If you find area under this portion, then we will get rated power, rated operating power. Now, another important point, remember carefully. For example, we bought some device like a thyristor, 100 volt and 50 ampere, right? Even though device voltage rating is 100 volt, we are not supposed to operate it 100 volt and 50 ampere. If you operate it like that, then it will have 100 into 50, right? 5000 or 5 kilowatt. On top of that, device will have some losses. Then what will happen? It will cross this boundary, right? So there is a chance for a device to damage. In order to avoid that, what manufacturer will suggest? It is advisable to operate below the rated voltage shown by this dotted line. It is advisable to operate below the rated current shown by this horizontal dotted lines. Therefore, that means you can remove some area on all of these corners. On all of these corners. Okay. This particular limit is called power loss limit. This particular limit is called power loss limit. Okay. So by following this condition constraints, only if you operate within this window, lower inner window, then we can say that device operation will be safe. Hence, this particular area is called safe operating area. Okay. So when you are buying a particular semiconductor device, you are not supposed to operate at voltage and currents as per your wish. Manufacturer will tell that this particular device can operate up to so and so values. You are not at all allowed to cross those limits. Okay, device will damage. From where I will get that information? So manufacturer will tell the user in terms of one technical document. Okay, that technical document is called data sheet or specification sheet. Okay, data sheets. This data sheet will be provided by manufacturer of that particular device, right? So you have to follow these information before placing any particular power semiconductor device in a given circuit, so that that operation will be safe. So with this I will conclude my lecture. We will continue in the next lecture.